Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user ComplexSlight6334. Am I the a-hole for wanting to say on how my wife spends her inheritance? We've been married for about 4 years and have no children. She just will be receiving a 6-figure inheritance from a late family member. She's making plans to buy a new car, take us on vacation, looking at high-end clothing and purses. She really wants this $10,000 Italian purse, so it'll probably be the first thing she'll buy. And a French bulldog. I'm apprehensive with her plans. We're 3 years into a 25-year mortgage. I told her we should use the majority of her inheritance to pay down that mortgage, since that'll save us hundreds of thousands in interest. She also still owes about $60,000 in student loans, which I think she should pay off. I think she should splurge a little, but invest the remaining in a mutual fund for a rainy day. Her argument is that the mortgage and her student loan payments are scheduled and we scheduled them because we can comfortably pay those payments. She also argues there's nothing safe about the market, even with mutual funds, so she could lose it all and will never again be able to afford her dream purse. She said she's been driving the same car since college and it's almost 10 years old. Lastly, she said it's her inheritance, and while she'll listen to my suggestions, she gets final say on how it'll be spent. We've been discussing this and going around in circles for days. While I do understand it's her money, I can't help but think of the hundreds of thousands of dollars we'll be saving in interest. Well, in my opinion, no, you're not an a-hole for having an opinion and for sharing it with your wife, but like she says, and I agree with her, it is finally her decision. However, my criticism is that she's making this decision from a very individualistic point of view and not a team point of view as the way I see a marriage. Now again, this is my personal opinion and other people may disagree, but for example, my wife and I, when we first got married and we moved to Germany, I had some money and I used that money to pay off her student loan. At the same time, we were only living off of my wife's income because I didn't have a job yet. And none of this was ever a problem for us because we both knew we were in this together. And that's my critique to your wife's decision. Choosing not to pay your student loans, considering interest rates are ridiculous, and spend the money on a $10,000 purse? That doesn't sound responsible to me and it doesn't sound like a team play. But again, it is her money and it is her decision. And what is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments. Mustang 1967 x 2 says, I think not paying for her student loan is the most ridiculous thing. Probably gives her $500 or $600 or more in her pocket. The mortgage may be thinking if something happens, you get half the equity, and I don't understand $10,000 on a purse, but okay with $3,000 to $4,000 in golf clubs. Fakin' Funk says, I mean, it's her money, so you get no say. But anyone who spends $10,000 on a bag to hold their crap is a very, very silly person and should be mocked and belittled at every turn. Every time in the future she wants money for a trip or car or whatever, just remind her that she was colossally stupid enough to buy a $10,000 bag and then point at her and laugh derisively for at least 5 minutes. Yeah, that sounds like a healthy marriage. And Celtic Muse Books says, 6 figures at your age is life-changing money, but it sounds like your wife is planning to piss it away and those opportunities with it. Depending on the interest rate on your mortgage, paying it off may or may not be the best move. Though better than a designer dog that is high maintenance and prone to health issues and a $10,000 purse. Paying off the student loans at their ridiculous rates is solid. A good quality car with a good gas mileage and low frequency of repair would be a good choice as well. Though I suspect she'll go for flash trash as she sounds like a style over substance type. The real issue you don't seem to be seeing is that when presented with a windfall, she's not thinking team marriage, she's thinking me. Not a deal breaker, but something you should keep an eye on. Not the a-hole, because you are suggesting and not demanding, and are suggesting things for the two of you as a family unit rather than for yourself. I will leave you with a short cautionary tale. A former coworker got around $30,000 from an inheritance about 20 years ago. Her husband suggested using it to pay off her student loans and create a little mad money account for herself. Instead, she went the jewelry and designer accessories route and told her husband it was her money and she should keep his opinions to himself. 10 years later, she really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom to her new baby, but her husband reminded her she'd agreed to keep working until her student loans were paid. She tried selling her designer items on eBay and was devastated to find that they had not aged well and wouldn't make a dent in the loans. 4 years later, when the husband's grandfather died and left him a low six-figure bequest, she asked him to pay off the rest of her loans, but he declined. She did admit that he put all of the inheritance into an education trust for the kids. If your wife squanders her inheritance, much like my coworker, she will come to deeply regret it. OP's short-term update. I've been reading your responses and I have to clear up some things. Some of you said that she shouldn't pay off our mortgage because it's her money and I would benefit from it. I make more than she does, so when we bought our house, we decided I should pay 3/4 and she pay 1/4 for the life of the mortgage. I was willing to pay more for our benefit, so I don't see how it's different from asking her to pay off the mortgage. Some of you said that she should get a new car since hers is almost 10 years old. My car is about the same age and I plan to drive it until it doesn't work anymore. I invest the money I save by not buying a new car and I get a healthy return from that money. Some of you said that legally it's her money and not mine, which is true, but when I get my bonus every year, we spend it together. I know it's legally her money too, but realistically, she's not helping me at work and I earned that money by myself, yet I share it with her. Legality aside, we're partners in life, and I think building a stable financial situation is much more important than vacations, a purse, and a dog. Alright, so the majority of the upvoted comments are not the a-hole, but they all recognize that it is the wife's final decision on the money, which of course it's true. And from OP's short-term update, it's clear that OP is a marriage team thinking kind of guy. So now it's time to move on with the update to see how this story ends. I read your comments and talked to my brothers and decided to bring equality into our marriage. I sat down and went through all of our bills and receipts. I was paying 3/4 of our mortgage, 3/4 of the property tax, all of the house's maintenance costs, almost all of the groceries, almost all of anything we bought for the house. Almost all of the utilities, including our cell phones, almost all of our activities outside of the house, including dinners and dates, and insurance for our cars. I paid for all of those things without a second thought before because we were partners and I make so much more than she does. So I sat her down last week and showed her the total of our spending, then told her that since her financial situation has drastically changed, she is now responsible for half of it all. That started arguments like we've never had before. I argued that she can now afford to be financially responsible for half of our lives, so she should be. She responded by reminding me that her inheritance is legally hers alone and not ours, so I can't figure that into our costs, while our salaries are legally ours, which is why we use them to pay for our living expenses. I argued that while she is legally correct, she's morally wrong, and this is how we're moving ahead, as equals. We haven't spoken to each other since then, except for a few texts. We go to bed in silence and leave for work without waking each other up. She's not the woman I thought I married, and it's gotten to the point that I question our future together. I went to see an attorney and found out our state sets limits on alimony based on the length of the marriage, if the other spouse is employed, and the separate financial state of the parties. My attorney said since we've been married for only 4 years, she works full-time, and her recent inheritance, there's an excellent chance I'll have to pay very little in alimony for about 3 years, and a good chance I won't have to pay anything at all. The messy part is that we'll have to divide all of the marital assets. I haven't called my attorney back and will spend some time pondering my future. Thanks for all the help. Well, Opie, if I was in your shoes, I'd be doing the exact same thing, pondering about where my marriage is going to go and if I want to stay in this thing, because it doesn't sound like you're a priority to her. It's more about, like that commenter said, me, instead of teen marriage. So on that note, here's wishing you the best in your pondering. Take care, Opie, and thank you for sharing. Now, let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user SVVVG. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister move in and take my master bedroom because she had to break her lease? My female 22 sister, female 24, works fly in, fly out in the Australian mines. Big money. For 5+, she's had many shared leases with people over the years. She's struggling to find a roommate at the moment. About a month ago, we had a casual conversation about the idea of her staying at the place I'm renting with my partner, male 24. Important detail. Me and my partner have separate rooms as we need our own space and it works for our sleeping schedules. A couple ideas were thrown around. I offered the spare room, which is very small and can only fit a bed. She proposed taking my master bedroom and offered to pay more, which means me and my partner would have to share or one of us moves into the tiny room. I said I would talk to my partner about this and get back to her. As of a couple days ago, she told me the landlord is not allowing a second person. For context, I left abruptly from a toxic workplace and I'm now on mental health leave. She straight up texted me, "I don't want to stress you out more, but when can I move in? LMAO." I told her I would sleep on it. Then the next day, she texted, "2 weeks to move in?" I had a talk with my partner and we agreed it's better if she takes the spare bedroom as she's 2 weeks on at the morning job and 1 week off. I called her and said she can have the spare bedroom. Then she had the audacity to say she's moving into my master bedroom because she will pay more. I said absolutely effing not because the room will be empty for 2 weeks at a time. And on top of that, she's unclean and untidy. My worry is she will leave my room disgusting. She did not take this well and said that I agreed to her taking my room, which didn't happen. Today, she blew up my phone with texts saying I'm petty for not letting her have my room and that she deserves luxuries. Also, she doesn't want to come home to a tiny room after living in one at work. I'm a young person who is finally living in my own place after being in crappy living situations. Why does she feel entitled to take my room and disrupt my life for her convenience? I know she's my sister and I understand her situation and feel for her, but this can't be the solution. Am I the a-hole? Well, Opie, no, I don't think you're the a-hole, but I do believe you have a problem looking at the situation. You're looking at the situation as if your sister actually has a say, when the fact is, she doesn't. However, you are letting her dictate this whole thing and making you feel bad because apparently you feel like you have to do something for her because she's your sister? F that, man. No, you are doing her a favor. Look, sis, you want to stay in my house? The only room available is the spare bedroom. And these are the rules to my house. You're gonna clean up after yourself and you're gonna respect other people's spaces. Oh, but no, I want the master bedroom and deserve luxuries. Well, then go find it somewhere else because you're not staying here unless you follow my rules. And that's it. What is she gonna do? Tell on you to your mom and your mom's gonna make you? No, you're an adult, OP. So again, not the a-hole and talk to your sister. Tell her what the conditions are and that's the end of the conversation. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section and now let's move on to the community comments. Crafty Special 7052 says, I'd tell her, I'm sorry, but this isn't going to work out and you should no longer move in. She's way too entitled to expect you to give up the master bedroom, and as you pointed out, she won't be home all the time, so it really does make sense she gets the spare bedroom. Dry Sandwich 860 says, this is not going to work. You know you'd be crazy to let her move in. Don't do it. She'll pull this drama every time she wants something. It will create problems in your relationship. Tell her it's not going to work. She will push back and tell her that the way she's behaving right now is a sign that it can't possibly work. You are on stress leave from work and can't have this at home. And OP responds, "You're totally right, she's being entitled. I do feel bad about setting this boundary even though I shouldn't." Bon42 says, "Not the a-hole. I would send her a text. I never said you could have the room. I said I would discuss with my partner what room you could use while we allow you to stay with us. We are doing you a favor. You do not get to dictate the terms of that favor, whether you're paying more or not. The fact is, you needed a place to stay. I'm giving you one. If you can't respect my partner's and mine choice of your accommodations, you are welcome to look elsewhere. If you keep trying to bulldoze me into getting what you want, we should rethink living together." Alright, so the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and that instead of finding a solution, she should just tell her sister she can't come. And that actually makes a lot more sense to me, so I'm changing my commentary to that. She can't come. Anyways, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Thanks for all the comments and validation, really gave me some perspective. Here's the update. Just FYI, this is my partner's account as I don't have my own. My sister and I have had a rocky relationship since forever, due to childhood trauma. I've cut her off many times due to this kind of disrespect and breaking of boundaries. I'm not perfect myself, but I want this relationship to work. Our phone conversation ended in a screaming match where I stated she will only get the spare room, but she insisted it was unfair because she would pay more money. She later texted me a photo of a workmate holding up the middle finger with a text saying, "My coworker said you're being petty, LMAO." I texted back in the fashion many of you suggested. "Tell him he's a see you next Tuesday. You're a guest at my home. You're not taking the master bedroom. That'll be empty for 2 weeks." She then replied, "You cannot keep using the excuse it'll be empty for 2 weeks. How the F do you think I've had roommates before, and how anyone does this first in first out have roommates before, like I'm gonna go live in a small room for my break as well as going back to work and living in a small room again. Like awesome, no luxuries, sweet." To which I said, "You're not a roommate. I'm doing you a favor by letting you have a roof over your head for a short while. You don't get luxuries when it's your only option. Also, my luxuries get taken away in my home because you say so? You're very out of touch with the average full-time young adult living in a stranger's room because that's their only option. Absolutely not fair. I finally have something to myself after 3 years of crap." And she said, "Girl, you aren't the very last and only option, LMAO, you're just the easiest." And I ended the conversation with, "Okay, then my offer is off the table. Would I be the a-hole if I cut her off again?" Of course not, OP. Good thing that you removed the offer. Now just block her number and let her figure it out by herself. In the meantime, enjoy the time you have to get yourself back on track. Take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. And now, let's finish this video with a quick mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user BlackCompy. Make sure to understand corporate policy. Some years ago, I was working for a large corporation. One of the responsibilities of the team I was on was to offer on-the-job training for employees and managers on a number of topics that are not important here. The point is, we took our job seriously and tried to do the best work we could. Among other things, that meant changing the training topics and content on a regular basis to make sure it was up to date with industry standards and what our colleagues actually needed to know. At some point, we were approached by corporate HR. Apparently, our trainings were bypassing most of the central controlling and approval processes, which was creating issues for them. I could understand that. However, these processes were awful, slow, unnecessary, bureaucratic, and HR showed no interest in improving them. There was no way we could follow them without sacrificing our quality standards. I could have outright refused to follow them and created a massive conflict, but there was a better way. We set up a workshop with HR to make sure we understand the processes we needed to follow in detail. Over several exhausting hours, we mapped out every single step that needed to be done by anyone along every step of the way. Flip charts with scribble and diagrams quickly filled up every square foot of available wall. At the end of a long and exhausting afternoon for everyone involved, I pointed out that we now had a full picture of what needed to be done. Good work, everyone. but we still needed to align on next steps. How would we get there? It was at this point that the HR manager in the room asked whether we could postpone that topic for the follow-up workshop, as everyone seemed to be very tired. Of course, we agreed. Funnily enough, that follow-up workshop never happened. Whenever the topic came up, everyone was quick to state how busy they were at the moment and could we delay for a few more weeks. A year or two later, our training program had to end for an entirely unrelated reason, so it didn't matter anymore. So if you ever need to refuse to do something in corporate world, don't say you won't do it, accept it and make sure it slows to an excruciating crawl. Well, I guess the moral of the story is the problems with bureaucracy only get solved with more bureaucracy. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.